Welcome to episode 3 of Tucker's Theoreticals. In this episode, we will consider the relative dollar value of defense units. This lecture presumes you understand the fundamental mechanics of the red booster, specifically defense cards. So if you are unfamiliar with them, reference the Flows Fundamentals lecture for the red booster. For those who've seen Tucker's episode 1, we had a relative value method of calculating cabbage and water. We could use a similar method here. That was referencing what is currently in the store proportional to what you will purchase on average. For defense units, the average value for a defense unit is $0.293, and cheaper for low prices, of course, and more expensive for high prices. We will use these numbers again in a bit. However, unlike cabbage and water, defense cards do not receive units back in change. Therefore, it's not quite as easy to tend to consider to declare this the most objective method of relative value calculation. However, this method is still useful in terms of measuring dollar efficiency. Let's look at an example. For simplicity's sake, let's call the bunny to be worth $10, as it is worth in the Wheels pawn shop. The kitchen whisk, therefore, is worth 1/12 of a bunny, which calculates out to be $0.833 approximately. Therefore, to use a defense unit against a kitchen whisk, the defense unit, on average, costs $0.293. The dollar efficiency, therefore, of using a single defense unit against the kitchen whisk is 284%. What happens, however, if you had two defense units instead of one? Since you don't get change back, the value you're receiving is the same, but the efficiency goes down. In this case, using a two defense unit against the kitchen whisk is still fairly efficient at a dollar efficiency of 142%. What this reveals is that defense cards are very efficient even against single target weapons, granted that they have diminishing efficiency lacking exact change. We also indirectly revealed that buying standard single target weapons is relatively inefficient. The kitchen whisk, which you would normally buy back from Rooney's for $1, is only actually worth $0.833 if you are using it to try to kill a bunny. What happens when your opponent decides to target a different player as a result of your efficient solution to their threat? Let's look at example 2. In this example, we have 3 players. We have player A with the blue congenial bunny, player 2 with the green congenial bunny, and player 3 who is deciding who he wants to target with the kitchen whisk. Seeing that player A had the efficient solution to the threat, he decides to target player B. In terms of relative value, your bunny still avoided the kitchen whisk. This was as a result of having the defense unit. Since you had the defense unit, player C did not want to target you, because you would simply use your defense unit and nothing would happen. Therefore, you still received the relative value of 0.833 by avoiding the kitchen whisk. Furthermore, since the opponent's bunny was hit, that is an additional 0.833 of value that you have effectively received. Therefore, this single defense unit has now achieved 569% dollar efficiency just from one kitchen whisk targeting a different player. If an opponent elects to target you less because of dollar efficiency of defense cards, then the defense cards have truly become significantly more efficient. An opponent playing a threat on a different opponent is worth even more than if you played the same threat on the same opponent, both in terms of tempo, because it is the opponent who wasted their turn on the kitchen whisk, not you, and in terms of theoretical retaliation. It is the opponent who attacked the other player, not you. That opponent may get retaliated against. Knowing this, some groups may elect to target a player with defense cards more because of this dynamic. Now, what happens when you increase the scale of this calculation while still remaining relatively realistic? Let's look at example 3. We'll say that player A has 5 bunnies and 12 defense units received at a low price rate, that is 0.09 per unit. Player B also has 5 bunnies but no defense units. Perhaps player A purchased them all since they only all cost $1 each. Player C has a nuclear warhead. How much dolla efficiency does player A accomplish if player C elects to target player B with the nuclear warhead? 5 bunnies is of course worth 50. The 12 defense units total cost the player A approximately $1.164. Therefore, player A receives 100 relative value, that is the 5 bunnies that he defended, and the 5 bunnies that were killed of player B. That $100 relative value was received for the low cost of $1.164. This is 8,591% efficient in this very realistic example. For comparison, the winning carrot, which is of course the player's primary goal of the game, has a cost of $10. It is relatively worth $10 times the number of total carrots, because having the winning carrot is just like having all of the carrots. As of writing this lecture, the current full set is 78 carrots. That means that the dolla efficiency rate of the winning carrot is 7,800%. That's less than example 3. In this reasonable scenario, this relative value calculation has declared buying defense cards at the low price runes to be more dolla efficient than buying the winning carrot. That is to say, if you knew the winning carrot was Tucker and you purchased Tucker, that is a less dolla efficient choice than purchasing defense cards at $1 each. Now, of course, the winning carrot as the win condition is objectively the most valuable thing in the game, showing some relative weakness in these relative calculations. This has been episode 3 of Tucker's Theoreticals, examining the relative value of defense cards. And as always, Jeff bless.